On March 25th, 2024, new charges were filed against Kouri Richins and new information is out. And oh boy, I'm going to read the document to you. I'm not going to read everything word for word because it's 14 pages long and a lot of it you already know. So I will skim over the stuff you know and read to you the things that are new, but the words will all be up on the screen so that if you do want to read the whole thing, you'll be able to. Let's go. First, they go through the charges, and the first one is one you already know about, and that's for the homicide on March 3rd, 2022. But she's also now charged for the attempted homicide, aggravated, for the February 14th incident in 2022. Remember the story that Eric told to his friends about eating a sandwich and getting sick? That's what this is for. She's also charged with distribution of a controlled substance, ×2 here, mortgage fraud, ×2, insurance fraud, ×2, forgery, ×2, ×3. And so this is an amended information. So they go through what happened on March 3rd and 4th, and that was the fatal event for Eric. And you know all this. And here we get into stuff that we didn't know already. At 7:22 p.m. on March 3rd, 2022, the night of Eric Richins' death, the defendant's paramour text messaged the defendant a photograph of two people kissing that was captioned, "Love you." At 8:36 p.m., the defendant responded, "Love you," kiss emoji. Paramour, Kouri, was having an affair. While EMS personnel were attending to Eric Richins, the defendant told law enforcement that she and Eric Richins had a drink together at 9 to celebrate something at work tomorrow. A year later, the defendant told law enforcement, "I made Moscow mules in the kitchen and I brought them into our bedroom, the bedroom." The defendant further said that they drank the Moscow mules sitting on the bed. Sometime after Eric Richins' death, the defendant wrote in a journal that on the night of Eric Richins' death, she and Eric Richins went to the kitchen and both started grabbing ingredients for a Moscow mule and a lemon drop. "We finished talking, made our way back to our bedroom and brushed our teeth." And as I'm reading this, I'm remembering at the detention hearing, the issue of the glasses was brought up, and there were no glasses to be tested for anything. So Kouri had cleaned up those glasses. On the night of Eric Richins' death, the defendant told law enforcement, "We eat THC gummies. Sometimes Eric will eat a gummy before he goes to bed." It didn't seem like he did though. A year after Eric Richins' death, the defendant told law enforcement that she saw Eric Richins take a THC gummy in the bedroom after drinking the Moscow Mule. The defendant then clarified, "I didn't actually see him take it. He told me he took it. And then he had to have taken it while I was making the drinks. I knew it." She talked about the gummies to the police. She talked about the gummies to the EMS people. What she wanted them to conclude was that he got a bad gummy that was laced. In explaining to law enforcement how the defendant thinks the fentanyl got into Eric Richins' body, the defendant said, "I honest to God think it was in one of those gummies. 100%. After the defendant's arrest for the murder of Eric Richins, the defendant's mother asked the defendant if she was sure the fentanyl came from a THC gummy. The defendant replied, "That is what I'm banking on, yes." The OME did not find any THC in Eric Richins' blood or gastric fluid. The THC gummies in Eric Richins' home at the time of his death were tested and did not contain fentanyl. The defendant told law enforcement that she went to bed with Eric Richins in the bedroom at approximately 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. on March 3rd, 2022, and shortly thereafter went to one of their children's bedrooms to sleep with the child because the child was having nightmares. The defendant said she awoke in the child's bedroom at approximately 3 a.m. on March 4th, 2022, and returned directly to the bedroom. The defendant said that she was asleep in the child's bedroom the entire time. The defendant told law enforcement that when she left the bedroom at approximately 9:30 to 9:45 to go to the child's bedroom, she left her cell phone plugged in next to her bed and did not take it to the child's bedroom. The defendant told law enforcement that upon returning to the bedroom, she felt Eric Richins and he was cold to the touch and not breathing, and she immediately called 911. Summit County Dispatch received her 911 call at 3:21 a.m. on March 4th. Forensic analysis of the defendant's cell phone shows that it was unlocked 6 times between 3:06 a.m. on March 4th and 15 minutes later at 3:21 a.m. when the defendant called 911. This analysis also shows that in the 13 minutes between 3:08 and 3:21 a.m., the defendant's phone or an associated device traveled approximately 378 feet. The defendant told law enforcement that she performed CPR on Eric Richins pursuant to the 911 dispatcher's instructions. The 911 recording captures the defendant counting as if she's performing chest compressions. The defendant told her best friend, "I pumped so damn hard, screaming at him to come back to life." The defendant wrote in a journal that she began CPR compressions until the EMT arrived. They immediately took over. According to EMS personnel, dispatch says she was doing CPR, but first one on scene, fire guy, said she wasn't. Now for the Valentine's Day attempt. A certain diner in Camas, Utah, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. Opens daily at 7 a.m. At 8:53 a.m. on February 14th, 2022, the defendant placed a 1-minute phone call to the diner. The defendant's and Eric Richins' joint bank account statement shows a $41.29 purchase at the diner on this day. At 9:41 a.m., the defendant text messaged her paramour headed that way. At 9:49 a.m., the defendant text messaged him a screenshot of a navigation application on her cell phone showing her current location on SR 32 in Camas and her projected arrival time at an unknown destination at 10:49 a.m. At 11:09 a.m., Eric Richins placed a 2-minute phone call to the defendant. At 11:27 a.m., Eric Richins text messaged a photograph to the defendant. That photograph has been deleted from both the defendant's and Eric Richins' phones. At 11:33 a.m., Eric Richins text messaged the defendant, "I'm gonna go lay down for a bit. If I don't start getting better, I'm going to head to the hospital." 1 minute later, the defendant responded, "Geez, it's that bad? Need me to come home? Go to take a nap and call me when you're up." 5 minutes later, at 11:39 a.m., activity recorded on Eric Richins' phone and associated devices ceased. Activity did not resume until nearly 2 hours later at 1:32 p.m. At 1:43 p.m., Eric Richins text messaged the defendant and asked, "Are you home?" The defendant responded, "No, in Provo, waiting for my cabinet installer guy. Are you home?" At 1:45 p.m., Eric Richins responded, "In the office. I've been sleeping out here." Eric Richins' office was located in a freestanding structure behind his home. At 1:59 p.m., Eric Richins called witness 1, a close friend, and reported, "You almost lost me." Eric Richins told witness 1 that the defendant had left him a sandwich and a note on the front seat of his truck, that he went in the house with the sandwich, had one bite of the sandwich, and broke out into hives hives. Eric Richins said that he then injected himself with his son's EpiPen that was on the counter, drank a bottle of Benadryl, and went to sleep. Eric Richins told Witness 1 that he had almost died. Witness 1 could hear the fear in Eric Richins' voice and tell that Eric Richins was scared. Wow, if that was not an allergic reaction and he took an EpiPen and Benadryl, that combined with whatever was causing the problem here could have done him in right there. At 2:11 p.m., Eric Richins called Witness 2, another close friend, and reported, "I think my wife tried to poison me." Eric Richins told Witness 2 that the defendant had left him his favorite sandwich from the diner along with a note. He said that he ate some of the sandwich, got sick, and blacked out. Eric Richins told Witness 2 that he felt like he was going to die. Witness 2 was struck by the tone of Eric Richins' voice and said Eric Richins seemed different, down and somber. Opioids, including fentanyl, can cause allergic and pseudo-allergic reactions to include hives. Eric Richins did not have any food allergies. On June 18th, 2022, 3.5 months after Eric Richins' death, the defendant text messaged her best friend about this incident. The defendant wrote, "It was Valentine's Day and Eric and I were both working from home that day and I ordered lunch from the diner. He never broke out in hives or used an EpiPen. I was effing with him. He said the sandwich hurt his stomach so he's going to take a nap. No hives, no EpiPen." On August 22nd, nearly 4 months after the defendant was arrested for the murder of Eric Richins, the defendant discussed this incident in 2 phone calls. In a phone call with her mother, the defendant confirmed she was the person who picked up the sandwiches from the diner on Valentine's Day. She said, "We ate in the office." In a phone call with her brother, the defendant discussed buying lunch at the diner that day. Oh boy. Do you remember the other incident too? There was one when they were away and they were having a meal with other friends and Eric got sick. I wonder if they can investigate that one too. And both Kouri and Lisa were on and on about Eric's allergies. Well, it turns out he had no food allergies. This section is about the purchase of illicit fent. And these purchases happened more than once. And you've heard about CL, the housekeeper, but there are more people involved here. The defendant occasionally employed witness 3 to assist her with renovating houses. So this is not the housekeeper. This is not CL. On January 20th, the defendant text messaged witness 3, "I did want to chat with you about something super random. Not now at kids' stuff. I'll call you tomorrow if that works." On January 21st at 7:24 p.m., the defendant texted the witness 3, "Hey, today snuck away from me. Can I give you a call in the morning around 11:30? On January 22nd at 11:06 a.m., the defendant text messaged witness 3, "Got a sec." Witness 3 says he spoke with the defendant on January 22nd, and the defendant asked him for fent. The defendant told witness 3 that she wanted the fent for a client who had back pain. Witness 3 told her that he would not get her fent, and she hung up on him. On January 22nd at 5:35 p.m., after the phone call in which witness 3 declined to get the fent for the defendant text messaged witness 3, "Have another one for you. Call me if you get a sec." Witness 3 told law enforcement that during a second phone call with the defendant on January 22nd, the defendant asked him for propofol. Witness 3 told the defendant that he could not get her propofol. The text messages from January 22nd between the defendant and witness 3 were manually deleted from the defendant's phone. After that date, the defendant and witness 3 did not ever communicate again. The defendant and witness 3 had communicated regularly throughout the prior year. On May 31st, approximately 3 weeks after the defendant's arrest for the murder of Eric Richins, the defendant's mother text messaged the defendant, witness 3, running his mouth. Wow. The defendant occasionally employed witness 4 to clean houses. This is about CL. You've heard about this before. And then there's this whole section on her internet searches, which I think you already have heard about, and the financial crimes, which you've heard about if you watched the detention hearing. And this amended information was filed on the 25th of March, 2024. I think there are a couple of really big takeaways. One is that Kouri was having an affair. Another is that the prosecution now feels that they do have enough evidence to lay that attempted murder charge. And the more she talks, the more they get on her. And Lisa Darden letting Kouri know that witness was running off his mouth. That's the update for you. If I get anything else, I'll keep you posted. Trust your gut. I'll see you in the comments.